Howdy doody, everybody. Kyler, what is your favorite
crime of passion?
Guys on TikTok are bringing back
Tic-tac.
checks, notes, perms.
Tanner, that doesn't matter. They banned that already.
I hate that.
Why would they ban
This-
perms?
No, Tic Tacs.
Oh, Tic Tacs.
Let me
Yeah.
see if either of you guys can interpret this sentence for me. Rihanna confirms Fenty Skin is coming and ignores your desperation for R9.
I hope R9 is Rainbow Six, but the ninth one. That's all I got.
I don't know what.
I don't know what
I don't know what-
Fenty is.
Yeah, I don't know what Fenty Skin
Is that like Venti? Because
Yeah,
they're
it's like
nice and
Venti.
thin.
You know, Venti. I don't know. Hello, Clark.
The Multo.
Kyler, did you enjoy Hotel Transylvania?
I love Hasbin Hotel.
That's... Those aren't the same.
Yeah. Has been.
Ooh.
Hey, has been. More like was.
Here, tell me if this
Ben.
sounds like something. Okay, let's get into it. Does Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton glorify slave owners?
I don't think it does.
I'm pretty sure all of history doesn't do that. I'm pretty sure everything in history is like, you know what? I don't think
See
slavery
what we
was
got
cool.
here. Unless
You know
you've been
what?
living
It's
under
been
a
a bad
rock in the
idea.
last 5 years, you've probably... Here, I'm gonna do one of my last talk about first, then I'll get into
Okay,
that article.
perfect. Thank you.
This one's not much better.
Oh boy.
So you know how people have been trying to redefine racism as prejudice plus power,
Yeah.
but you
No.
know any rational person knows it's just prejudice.
Yeah.
Let me throw this out. If racism is prejudice plus power, then white supremacists aren't racist.
Because they have no power?
They have no power.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know, Tanner. Look at the big
They're-
orange man.
They're disavowed by,
But Tanner-
by virtually all reasonable persons.
But Tanner, don't you know all white people have more power than anyone, even if it's Oprah Winfrey and a homeless white man?
Tanner, how would you feel if Donald Trump came to your own home?
I guess
I don't
that'd be
care.
kind of neat.
However, he came to enjoy your sweet little dinner that you baked for yourself. You made some chicken.
He's here to eat my food.
Yeah, he just came
That'd
to
be
eat your
really
food.
funny.
I would
I'd
be,
probably
especially
be down.
since he's very rich. He's like, no, I'm gonna eat Tanner's sandwich. Tanner, give me your sandwich.
Nikolai, I am here for your din din. Mr. President, why you have probably some crazy good chef at the White House. Why don't you have? No, I want your food. I hear it's the greatest meal ever made. Really fantastic meal you've made for yourself, and now it's mine.
I've never tasted peasant food like yours, Tanner.
Unless you've been living under a rock in the last 5 years, you've probably come across someone talking about Hamilton, created by Lin-Manuel Miranda, Moana, In the Heights, Mary Poppins Returns. The show is a musical combining hip-hop, rap, R&B, and musical theater to retell the story of Alexander Hamilton, one of the founding fathers who led the war for North American independence against Britain in the 18th century. North American independence.
I just like to
North
say,
American independence.
I'm almost certain. No, I am certain that something in these roofs, in these walls, is made from earth rock type stuff. You know, either the paint
Yeah.
or the metal, and therefore, technically, I am living in a rock. I am living under a rock,
Sure.
technically. So
I don't like how they say North American independence.
I also don't.
I feel like
that
that's a
much.
sly way of not saying the United States.
Yeah.
Since it first debuted in
Well, 'cause that would all-
2015, the show has been pushing boundaries for racial diversity and representation in musical theater, casting the historically all-white leaders from the time, including George Washington, the first president of the United States, with a BIPOC cast.
I don't know what that means.
B-I-P-O-C.
BIPOC.
What does it remember?
BIPOC.
I asked someone this because I was like BIPOC, like bisexual. No, it's... Is it black, indigenous people of color?
Perhaps.
It's big.
It's independent.
And over the weekend, Disney Plus began
Peaceful.
streaming a full
Boys.
production by the original cast, leading many to question, in the wake of the Black Lives Matter protests and police brutality, whether Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton does more to glorify people who were historically slave owners rather than to simply entertain. Essentially, there are two very clear interpretations of Hamilton. It glorifies America's founding fathers, whose involvement in slavery in the U.S. is undeniable, and chooses to omit the ugly parts of their history, or that the production is practically a fanfic of real life and set in an alternate universe and is really just a musical. I wonder which one they're gonna say it is.
You know what's really funny? They didn't have to write this. It doesn't help us at all.
In 2015, a New York Times piece claimed that Hamilton painted Alexander Hamilton as a saint and for the people, which they argued went against scholars' accounts that he was more a man for the 1% than 99%. The musical,
Tanner,
what?
Hang on here for a second. So there's no some. Like, look at this. Look at Ignatz here. He's got like these A rank freaking support things he can do with all these women. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Sylvain is like less than half of the women on this list.
That's what being thirsty gets you.
Yeah.
In 2015, a New York Times piece claimed that Hamilton painted Alexander as Saint 99%. Musical ends with Hamilton's wife Eliza saying that he would have done so much more against slavery if he were alive longer, and hugely exaggerates Hamilton's goodness and eagerness for justice. And in the wake of the current conversations about racial inequality towards BIPOC communities, the play chooses to ignore the fact that several of the founding fathers owned slaves. How do you tie that into a musical?
I just like to say...
do you just like, also I own slaves!
It's so weird how people are like, oh yeah, Abraham Lincoln, he owned slaves, so he's a bad guy. That doesn't change the fact that he's still technically... Not even he abolished slavery.
Here's a good sentence. It paints Hamilton as anti-slavery, despite historically inheriting slaves at one point in his life.
Inheriting? You're a bad guy.
He's
you
a bad.
Inherited
How dare your parents give you slaves?
You should have bought them yourself like a responsible American.
You animal. As such, some argue that Miranda's portrayal of Hamilton in the play risks pulling the rug over some of the ugly parts of this period of American independence.
Doesn't everyone know everything about America is ugly? Like all of it, even the present?
Even Marilyn Monroe?
Others, like Vox's Aha Romano, argue that the play is a reimagining of their country's founding history and doesn't need to be historically accurate, because it's essentially fanfiction, their words, not ours. In the context of fanfics, we tag this as real-person fanfiction, with a political alternate universe and race-bending elements on AO3.
Again, they could have just not written this.
Or, as they put it, Hamilton is fanfic, which means its function is partly to argue with its canon, not to simply celebrate it. According to Romano, it doesn't need to address the fact that Taylor Hercules Mulligan had a black slave, or that the founders really didn't want to create the country we actually live in today, because it isn't retelling history, it's rewriting it. This conversation around the historical accuracy and political bias of a play about a group of black friends rapping their way to securing American independence has been around for as long as the play first debuted, but when a film of the stage production featuring the original cast released on Disney Plus over the weekend, aptly on the 4th of July, OFC, the conversation resumed. I don't like slang abbreviations in what's trying to pass themselves off as serious articles.
They gotta relate to these hip young kids, Tanner. We're definitely reading these articles. This
article would have been so much better if they just talked about how, like, oh, hey, did you know that,
Jotaro was actually silver-tailed.
No, if they're just like, yeah, he owned slaves, and here's the facts, instead of being like, maybe this funny song on Broadway is racist?
That's just a theory.
As AJ Plus writer Sanae Saneed put it, it's funny how in a time where we are taking down the statues of slaveholders and traitors, changing the names of buildings named after segregationists, people are celebrating the Hamilton movie, a musical that whitewashes a slave trader and underplays slavery. Of course, you can enjoy the music and production of Hamilton and still criticize it for potentially glamorizing people who owned slaves and willingly chose to not fight against slavery. But it's an interesting conversation to have, especially right now. Statues of known slave owners and racial aggressors.
Yeah.
I don't like that phrase.
What do they mean by whitewash?
Racial aggressors. I don't like that phrase. That's some real Orwellian shit right there.
That's
are being forcibly taken down by protesters, and that's generally celebrated. I don't think you have any evidence to support that claim.
I find it very rare people celebrate that.
Oh, you'll find it once you get into the deep.
I'm just gonna throw out most of these people that complain about this stuff. If they were back in those times, they probably wouldn't have done much about slavery either. Most of us wouldn't.
You don't know that, Tanner. You don't know.
No, I'm pretty sure he knows.
I'm pretty confident in saying that. Is this the final battle?
Yeah, yes.
Nice.
Those people would be too scared.
In light of all this resurfacing, Miranda addressed the criticism towards his play on Twitter, admitting that all of the criticism is valid. Coward, you should have said, your guys' criticism is bullshit, get out of my face. The sheer tonnage of complexities and failings of these people I couldn't get, or wrestled with but cut. I took 6 years and fit as much as I could into a 2.5-hour musical. Did my best, it's all fair game. It's a fair enough. Oh, that's how it ends.
You should have just been like, alright, you write one that isn't racist. Or is racist. Checkmate.
I'm gonna make a freaking Ku Klux Klan musical.
Definitely don't do that, Tanner. Don't do it.
Hey, how do you guys feel about how the map community, as they call them, or pedophiles, as normal people call them?
We've already made fun of those people twice. I mean,
about how they're leeching. They're trying to leech onto the LGBT.
Well,
could Kanye West really be the next president of the United States? I kind of want to see what they have to say about this.
Well, you're gonna need to see what they say off camera, Tanner, because this is the end of the episode.
Could Jesus really beat Donald Trump and Joe Biden?
Maybe we'll find out in the next episode. Maybe.
Bye-bye.
Maybe if you're lucky. Bye-bye.